Morning, all. All right, so news of the day video to start things off for your Monday, July the 10th. Is we're 10 days into July. We're already just a couple of months away from talking about training camps and all that fun stuff. So, really, the off season isn't nearly as long as it feels at times. So, we'll start things off talking about avoiding arbitration, and we're going to hear that conversation a lot over the next couple of weeks. Noah Cates, there was, I believe it was a July 20th arbitration date, so 10 days before the arbitration date, the Flyers settle with Cates. That way you don't have to worry about talking to an arbitrator and getting into the arguments that can come out of arbitration, or just the ugliness of when there's an award of a contract that the player doesn't like or the team doesn't like. At any rate, it is a 2-year deal between Cates and the team, $2.625 million per season. And I only have to write Cates. I'm pretty sure Jackson Cates is a free agent right now. So, yeah, Noah Cates sticking around with the team. Good 200-foot player, solid forward. I still think there's some upside there. And a 2-year deal means in 2 years he's probably going to get paid a lot more than $2.625 million. In between the fact that he's a good young forward and then the salary cap's going to go up, yep, his cap hit will probably be higher on his next contract. The Ottawa Senators, with new ownership coming in, I would expect other moves at the top of the organization to be made. Anthony LeBlanc steps down as president of business operations. Normally, that's not something I would throw into a news video, but it is indicative that things are changing in Ottawa. And so we got a new owner coming in. He probably has his own guys he's going to put in charge of things. And LeBlanc may have stepped aside before that ends up happening, right? So look for other moves with the Sens. Based on the reaction to the DeBrincat trade, I think there are those Sens fans that aren't very happy with the job Dorian's done. But he was really kind of painted into a corner. There weren't very many places that DeBrincat could go. He knew he wasn't going to get back what he paid to get DeBrincat from Chicago. And so you get what you get at that point, and that was, I'm guessing, the best offer that Detroit gave him. The Ottawa Senators, a team to keep an eye on over the next few months here, and definitely over the next few weeks, and see what they do with that cap space they have. I will remind them, you don't have to spend all your cap space all at once. And I will agree with something I saw this morning, that is, I don't think Tarasenko's necessarily the answer. The offense from him over the last couple of years, it looks like it's starting to, drop off. And so there's some danger there. Once you get a player who's getting a little bit older, especially with his injury history, if it's going to be a $5 million plus cap hit, there's some danger to that. But at any rate, we'll see what happens. Now he'll sign in Ottawa. Vegas on the board because they did something interesting, and apparently they're the first team in NHL history to put 4 goaltender names on the cup, and that's not including goalie coach Sean Burke. So the goalie names that are on there for the cup win are interesting because they do not include Robin Lehner. Lehner, of course, with a $5 million a year contract. We don't know what's going on with Lehner. We don't know if Lehner's going to be back with the team next year. No clue. But they've got Aiden Hill signed. They've got Logan Thompson signed. Jonathan Quick's now a Ranger. Laurent Brossois now a Jet. But all 4 of them get their names on the Stanley Cup. So that is a really nice story. The Cup has started making its round. Nick Raw has it this morning, for instance. It's his day with the Cup. And so, yeah, I think this is a nice story. And one of those oddities that their starting goaltender was seen as Lehner, and then when they win the Stanley Cup that season, after Lehner doesn't play that season, he doesn't get his name on the cup. And that I totally get why his name's not there. It's an interesting one. If when he'd signed that contract, I had said, yeah, they're going to win, but he's not going to get his name on the cup, people would have been scratching their heads and saying, I don't know what's wrong with Shannon. Boston. So I want to talk a little bit about Boston. This is kind of a fun thing they've started. So they have an independent committee, and it's alumni, it's people in the media that they've named. I didn't get asked, what the heck, Boston? Anyways, you're supposed to name the 100 most legendary Bruins. I gladly would have done that. And then they're going to, from those 100 players, name the 20-player all-Centennial team. Again, I'm right here. But anyways, Boston having their Centennial celebration. It may overshadow a little bit the season they're about to have because they're not going to have the season they had last year, of course. They could fall off a bit or a lot, depending on what happens with Bergeron. Krejci, without that depth down the middle. But I think the Centennial celebrations will be fun no matter what happens with the team on the ice. Because I'm anxious to see, the old throwback jerseys they're going to do, even if they're just for warm-ups. And, just that nostalgia is always fun, right? So Detroit, the winners of that trade yesterday, I was alarmed how quickly, after a week ago, I said, yeah, I still believe in the Yzer plan. People are like, are you crazy? Now people are like, oh man, Yzerman fleeced Dorian. It is just remarkable how a GM is only as good as his last trade, right? The last year was the summer of Pierre. Ottawa looked like a playoff team. Now it's this summer and it's just fire Pierre Dorian. I just think that's always interesting. So Michigan-born Alex DeBrincat saying that he's excited to play for Detroit. That's the team he grew up cheering for. And there's some truth to that. And that's one of the reasons why I've always said with Vancouver, get more BC boys, get guys who grew up cheering for the Canucks. There's something to that, for Toronto, get Ontario-born guys. And obviously with Montreal, you want to get guys born in Quebec. And, just that. So it makes a lot of sense. He gets his 4-year contract, not the 8 that I think he wanted. But it does mean that he has, some job security, some modified no trade included with that contract. He's happy. The Red Wings are happy. And if he plays well over the next 4 years, he's 29 at the end of that contract. And if he plays as well as people think he could, then you get an 8-year extension from there. I also wanted to throw in there because, again, there's a lot of criticism thrown towards GMs at this time of year. Lou Lamoriello. It seems like every summer there are those that will just, Lou's terrible. His moves are awful. And it all seems to hinge on the Horvat contract. Now, I understand people hate on the Horvat contract. I think that Horvat can be a serviceable 30-plus goal scorer. He's 28 years of age. I really think that when I start seeing things like, it's a list of one of the worst contracts in the league, I kind of roll my eyes a little bit at that. Is it a great contract? No, I'm not arguing it's a great contract. But I think the amount of criticism towards Lou, and now it's been doubled down on because there's fans angry that DeBrincat didn't sign and get traded to the New York Islanders. So, I mean, that's kind of out of Lamoriello's control, especially if DeBrincat wanted to go to Detroit. If we hear, DeBrincat and his agent kind of really push for Detroit, the Islanders were a back burner idea, and that's possible. Really, honestly, I think before we completely bury Horvat's contract, we could let it start first off, because I know with JT Miller, Vancouver, it's been the same thing. Everybody burying a contract that hasn't started yet. And again, I'm not saying they're going to age really well or anything like that, but the salary cap's going to go up. These $8.5–9 million a year contracts that we're in shock at now, they're going to be $10 and $11 million a year contracts 4 or 5 years from now. So we'll just have to see what happens. But I do find it interesting how this early in the offseason, there are going to be people declaring the winners and losers of the offseason already. And we haven't played a game. We haven't started training camp. We don't know what's going to happen with players that have been injured that should be ready for training camp. Maybe they won't be. I will say I think the Islanders have adapted pretty well, made some changes here and there. We'll see how this coming season goes. I think it'll be interesting if the Islanders do make the playoffs and if Horvat plays a major role in that. See if anybody's opinion gets changed. Probably not. Once people have it in their minds that a contract's bad, generally it just stays that way. But the list of worst contracts in the league, I looked at it and I thought, you could make an argument for some of these, sure, but others, it's a tough call. And so, I just wanted to throw that out there. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always. And which GM do you think gets too much credit or too much blame right now? Or here's another, for instance, which GM have people praised that now everybody's slamming, and which GM everybody's slamming are they now praising? And again, with Yzerman, it feels like it's changed in a moment when he made the DeBrincat deal and then signed him to that extension. But that's the nature of fandom and nature of the media as well, right? So let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.